Good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Justice Paulus, and I would like to thank you for viewing my presentation on the Arctic Council, subtitled Protecting Biodiversity in the Arctic Region. I have chosen this intergovernmental organization as the topic of my presentation because the Arctic region is a vital area, rich in both flora and fauna. But as the area does not border many states, the issues facing the Arctic today are often not at the forefront of discussion. So, to provide you with a brief history of the Council and a little bit of background information, this Council began in 1989 with a meeting. This meeting, pushed for by Finland, involved the states bordering the Arctic and led to the development of the Arctic Environmental Protection Strategy of June 1991. This foreshadowed the signing of the Ottawa Declaration of September 1996, which formally established the Arctic Council. This council is designed to provide a place to discuss Arctic issues with all Arctic states and the indigenous peoples that reside in the states involved. The member states involved, that is, those who signed the Ottawa Declaration, are as follows: Finland, the United States of America, Russia, Canada, Denmark, including the Faroe Islands and Greenland, Sweden, Iceland, and Norway. Every 2 years, the chairmanship of the organization rotates to a different member state. Member states are not the only actors with a voice in this council. There are a number of permanent participants included in this organization, which are representatives of either a group of indigenous peoples that live in one Arctic state, or a single indigenous people that live across multiple Arctic states. The permanent participant organizations are the Russian Association of Indigenous Peoples of the North, Siberia, and Far East, the Inuit Circumpolar Council, the Sami Council, the Gwich'in Council International, the Arctic Athabascan Council, and the Aleut International Association. Now, what are the goals of these actors? As stated before, the Arctic Council provides a means of discussing the issues surrounding the Arctic. Another goal of the organization is to address emergency aversion and preparedness in the region. Further, the organization seeks to watch out for and limit Arctic pollution. The Arctic Council also seeks to combat climate change and provide research on such. All of these goals relate to another goal, which is to maintain proper and appropriate usage of the Arctic's biodiversity. As you may know, biodiversity is crucial in every ecosystem, as all of the different organisms within an ecosystem play a role in maintaining a stable environment. These actors attain their goals through a number of different methods. First, they rely on volunteers from around the globe to provide research and data on the pertinent issues facing the Arctic. These volunteers may come from member states or from places with observer status, which are essentially states outside of the Arctic that wish to observe the Arctic Council's workings. These volunteers may also come from IGOs, intergovernmental organizations, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, or IPOs, interparliamentary organizations. On top of this, the Arctic Council utilizes 6 working groups, which are as follows: Arctic Contaminants Action Program, Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program, Conservation of Arctic Flora and Fauna, Emergency Prevention, Preparedness and Response, Protection of the Arctic Marine Environment, and Sustainable Development Working Group. The 2 working groups that I wish to call your attention to are Conservation of Arctic Flora and Fauna and Protection of the Arctic Marine Environment. The working groups of Conservation of Arctic Flora and Fauna, or CAFF, and Protection of the Arctic Marine Environment, or PAME, are perhaps the most important working groups in maintaining biodiversity, and definitely the most involved. One of their top priorities is addressing the management of the different organisms and their respective terrains within the Arctic. The group also seeks to address issues that arise from pollution or other issues from development. Sustainability is crucial to the Arctic Council, and by pushing for these healthy means of development and use of resources through publications distributed to the member states, this council participates in some form of global governance. Now, let's look at 3 publications which highlight just how these working groups, and thus the Arctic Council itself, participates in global governance. First, we have State of the Arctic Marine Biodiversity, Key Findings and Advice for Monitoring. This publication discusses, among many other issues, data finding a greater prevalence of disease in marine species. This publication also makes a number of recommendations, including better cooperation among the member states on various facets of their research work. With regard to direct interactions with the organisms under surveillance, the working group suggests that monitoring plans be used for some mammals, like seals or polar bears, and monitoring plans be used for Arctic fish as well, in order to better analyze the different sizes of the populations and their spread. Next, let's look at Actions for Arctic Biodiversity 2013 to 2021. This is updated every 2 years. Right now we are in a middle phase of analysis, and in this period, the CAFF explicitly recommends that there should be a greater focus on commitments to protecting biodiversity than ever before. Lastly, we have Arctic Protected Areas Indicator Report 2017. This is essentially a mapping of all the areas deemed protected by different states and their conventions. As you can see, the Arctic Council is clearly committed to maintaining biodiversity, as it uses specific working groups to address and research such issues. Furthermore, in doing so, in making recommendations to its different member states, this organization most definitely participates in a form of global governance.